Well, good morning there. There's no smooth way to like intro this. I'm experimenting with different things. I thought of maybe I could have like maybe I could have a bowl of fruit, then I can offer it to people as they come into the chat. Like, would you like a strawberry? That's my breakfast. Then I eat one. Then I realized that would involve me eating on camera, which would just be kind of weird. I mean, I don't know. I think I eat like a normal person. Like, I don't think there's anything weird about it. You know, I try, whenever I go on a first date, I try to make sure it's not dinner. You know, I don't want to like eat in front of the person right away. You know what I mean? What's up, Chris? What's up, Edwin? Would you like a strawberry? We'll have imaginary ones. It's like we're Neverland. What's up, Mars? What's up, Hippa? Stop eating pasta. I have stopped eating pasta because I'm on a Whole30 diet. And I'm halfway through it. What's up, Jojo? What's up, Darkstar? Glad you're here. Plain Glass Windows says spaghetti is the best first date food. Joseph says, get your munchies on with Ron. Not yet, Joseph. I'm not high. But, you know. And Joseph sent me an Aji Pie article. Well, I'm excited for that. Hey, Mars, tweet out your recipes. I would love to do that. You know, I have a few I'm proud of. I would love to do that at some point. Cappuccino Conservative, it has been a while. Good to see you, my man. What's up, Daniel? What's up, Watson? Good to see everybody. Once we hit 30, we'll get started. Hello, Cappuccino Conservative. Good to see you too, comrade. What's up, Austin? Oh, you're at the DMV. Oh, buddy, you got my sympathy. Oh, the DMV sucks so bad. I don't know. I don't know what state you're in. It's not good anywhere. It's particularly brutal in some places more than others. I've lived in 5 different states. Yeah, 5 different states. But I only had to deal with the DMV in 4 of them. So, because like one of them was like I went to college in Indiana. I never had to deal with the DMV there because I never was an actual resident. But, oh, you're in Cali? Yeah, Cali's the freaking worst, Austin. I was going to say, everywhere I lived in Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Washington State, and California. And California, by far, the worst DMV experience. It's pretty terrible. K-Line Report, what's up, Ontario? Good to see ya. Good to see ya, good to see ya. I want to come to Toronto. I haven't been in a while. I want to do a show there. I hear great things. My buddy Sam Tripoli was just in Niagara Falls. What's up, Matthew? Hola. Hello, David. Good to see you. According to my calculations, we are at 26 people. Once we hit 30 people, we will officially begin. We will officially start the show. Cali DMV frickin' sucks. Are you getting your license renewed, Austin? Are you getting plates? And we actually covered that story here on how the DMV has screwed up a bunch of voter stuff. All right. Congratulations on buying a car, Austin. Plain Glass Windows brings up Beto, which actually has something to do with today's question. We're going to talk about not necessarily Beto O'Rourke, but kind of a theme loosely involving Beto O'Rourke. And we are there. Perfect timing. Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What does that mean? That means you guys tweet me articles or you post them in our Reddit subsection, which is just reddit.com/r/GetYourNewsOnWithRon, or you can tweet me articles at Ron Placone. And that's how we build the show. I'm seeing all this news for the first time. And I just got up and I had breakfast. And so I haven't looked at any news yet. I mean, everything you guys throw at me, I'm seeing it all for the first time. I don't know what went on so far this morning. I have no freaking clue. Apparently there's some news with with Ajit Pai. According, there's some news about the middle class. We got an article from Paul to start out the show. And start tweeting those articles, guys. Start tweeting them. You know, I do my best to stick to the timeline and to do a first come, first served method. And, you know, I do my best. We never get to everybody, but it's all part of the fun. So my question today. So I posted the Beto O'Rourke video, which, you know, we covered Beto O'Rourke, not this past Music Monday, but the Music Monday before. And we talked about how he used to be a big punk rocker. And I pointed out the fact that it's weird he's as centrist as he is, considering his music background. And I'm really hoping he reclaims those roots and kind of goes a little further to the left. And, you know, I thought we did a pretty fair assessment. We talked about how he is certainly a better option than Ted Cruz, obviously. So I understand how some people, in this case, you kind of just want to take what you can get. He's built up a lot of momentum. Who knows the next time someone might be able to do that against Ted Cruz. I understand. But I also don't see the value in trying to pretend that any candidate, not just him, but any candidate in general, is something they're not. I don't see what the point in doing that is. So I pointed out a few things about him, and I've gotten some of the typical responses. And some of them are totally fair. Some of them I don't understand. And here's why I wanted to bring this up as a question. And I'm not trying to single out Beto O'Rourke. This can apply to any candidate, and it has. I'm just using this as a for instance example. So here's how progressives are shit on twice, okay? First, people go, look, your ideas can't win, so somebody needs to be more to the center, because if they're too far left like you guys, they can't win. So your ideas can't win. So, sorry, but your ideas can't win. And then on the same hand, the same people that entertain that theory, they also say to us, hey, now's not the time to point out that this candidate hasn't adopted the policies you like. Now's not the time to point out the flaws with this candidate. Well, what do you mean by that? Like how is that not? So when's the time? After the election? We're on the campaign trail. We're not supposed to talk about candidates. We're supposed to wait until afterwards. On what planet does that make sense? First of all. Second of all, so what is the theme here? Is the theme, you know, hey, your ideas can't win, but also your ideas are really popular, so if you don't just support this candidate and not tell the truth about them, everything's your fault. It can't be both ways. Either progressives matter or they don't. It can't be both ways. It can't be you're too much of a fringe minority politically, so your ideas can't win. Oh, by the way, your ideas are really popular, so don't point out the fact that this candidate isn't on board with all of them, because if they don't win, then it's all your fault. It can't be both ways. It's got to be one or the other. Either we matter or we don't. And if it's the latter, and progressives do matter, and progressive policies are the policies that a candidate needs to adopt to win, well then, if a candidate doesn't adopt those policies, it's their fault, not the fault of the person who points it out. I know that's a crazy concept. I know that the natural inclination is, surely a comedian on Twitter has the power to bring down any political candidates. Especially one that has already built up a celebrity around themselves and has appeared on all the late night talk shows. I mean, a comedian on Twitter who, for the record, can't get on those damn shows himself can surely bring down like... So I don't, which one is it? Which one is it? I guess that's my question. Do we matter or do we not? And what does it mean to say now is not the time? Like what does that mean? Now's not the time. We're in the middle of an election. Now is not the time to talk about the candidates in it. Did that make sense to anyone here? If it did, explain it to me. Please, explain it to me. Guys, now's not the time. Now is not the time. I have a feeling everybody on the stream has heard that from somebody. Now's not the time. What is it? What do you say? When's the time? When after they get elected? What the fuck? So guys, when's the time? When are we allowed to talk about candidates? When are we... Because, I mean, I do a show that's topical, and I'm just curious, you know, when's the time? Can someone let me know? I don't want to hijack any campaigns. All right, let me see what you guys are saying. Let's see. The theme is progressives don't matter. They just want to have their cake and eat it too. They are mad they can't trick us into voting for them. They should sell Beto as he is. Joseph says this. They should sell Beto as he is. He is better than Ted Cruz. He isn't all that progressive, though. He is a Dem with some progressive rhetoric, but don't push him down our throats as a progressive. That sounds totally fair, Joseph. So, now's not the time. All right, just cut it out with that. Now's not the time. What do you think you're doing? Fairly assessing a candidate on a campaign trail. That's not... That's it's like you're thinking this is a democracy or something. It's really weird. Really weird. You're freaking a lot of people out. A lot of people are concerned. Plain Glass Window says he's not really for single payer. Obama team is attempting to hijack the debate and instead implement universal health care, or as we call it, the preservation of the private insurance industry. Well, universal health care would have to not involve the private insurance industry. And I know what you're saying, Plain Glass Windows. They're going to try to paint this picture that it can. And that's a lie. You know, trying to have a universal system, or at least any type of universal system, and involving the for-profit insurance companies, again, that is the equivalent of saying, hey, we have a termite problem in this house. Our solution is going to involve keeping some of the termites and making sure the termites play fair. Like this termite gets this little pile of wood, this other termite gets this one. They're going to play fair. That's what it's the equivalent of. It makes no logical sense. So that's why when people say strengthen the ACA, that's just words. That means nothing. You know how you strengthen the ACA? You jump to a single-payer system. You know how people say we need incrementalism to get there? We had it. You know what the incrementalist step was? The incrementalist step was the Affordable Care Act. And it would have been a more incrementalist step if it included a public option, and it didn't. And why didn't it? Because of Obama. Why did he take it out? Donors. So if candidates need progressive policies to win and they don't adopt them, it's their fault. Not the person pointing it out. It's their fault. If progressive policies are a kiss of death in their campaign, well then if somebody points that out, they're not hurting the candidate. If anything, they're helping them. Right? I mean, if the policies I stand for is a recipe to lose for any given candidate, then me pointing out that they don't stand for those policies, that, if anything, is helping them. How is that not helping? And I'm not saying I'm intentionally trying to help or not help anyone. I'm just a comedian that tweets whatever the hell I feel like. But, I mean, you see how it's like double-speak logic. Moose Gal, there is a new narrative that Andrew Gillum from Florida is walking back on single payer. Jimmy Dore said something about it on his show. It's not true at all. He promotes Medicare for all. Well, Moose Gal, he needs to fix his website then. Because I happen to know the Jimmy Dore show clip you're referring to. I was on it. And yeah, his website says otherwise. So he needs to update that. In fact, we can go there right now. Let's just make sure. Maybe he changed it as of literally yesterday. Because yesterday is when we recorded that clip. Alright, I'm on Andrew Gillum's website. So let's go to healthcare. So here we go. As governor, Andrew will work to expand Medicaid and strengthen the Affordable Care Act. Andrew has proposed passing a Florida law protecting people with pre-existing conditions from being denied coverage, being charged more for their care due to a pre-existing condition, or women charged more than men. He was also the only candidate who opposed a law protecting women's access to no-cost contraceptive care under Obamacare. Now let's go back to the top where it does say, Andrew believes that Senator Sanders' Medicare for All plan will help lower costs and expand coverage to more Floridians. Gillum has promised to fight the new healthcare premium increases that are a result of President Trump, Rick Scott, and congressional Republicans trying to attack Obamacare. So, Muscal, I'm not trying to, say you're wrong or shame you or anything like that. I'm just pointing out, you see how there's a little bit of doublespeak here. He's not saying I support a single-payer system because that's the only way forward for healthcare in this country. He talks about strengthening the ACA, doing stuff for Medicaid, talking about how the ACA hasn't been given its full chance to succeed, which it has. It's Mitt Romney's plan. It only took us so far. It was better than the nothing we had. It was better than the AHCA. But the alternative to an anti-healthcare plan, which is what the AHCA is an actual healthcare plan, which is Medicare for all single payer. So yeah, there is a sentence in there saying he believes it could be a good thing. But then there's also about, 2.5 paragraphs talking about strengthening the ACA. And when it comes to actual policy position, he's talking more about strengthening the ACA. However, I thought in a media interview he was for Medicare for all. It's hard to keep up. Yeah, it's hard to keep up when people aren't strong on their convictions, Muscal. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. This isn't us. This isn't an our problem. This is a their problem. And for some reason, you're supposed to tie up and put a bow on what these candidates are actually about. Now, is there still plenty of time for Andrew Gillum to make his stances clear? Yes, there is. And I hope he makes the right choice. I'm listening. But you can't just have one sentence about Medicare for all and then go on and on about strengthening the ACA. And Edwin points out Beto O'Rourke does something similar. And this makes it easy to kind of make a pivot, and then when you're in a position of power to be like, we got to strengthen the ACA, let's focus on that right now. Let's put single payer over here. Some of you guys are saying that you don't think Ro Khanna supports Medicare for all. Well, just for fun, I just jumped over to his website. And honestly, you know, this is kind of a subjective judgment. But you guys tell me if you see a difference. I support the creation of a single-payer healthcare system or Medicare for all. We must increase coverage, support small businesses, expand primary care, and lower premiums. Medicare for all is the next step toward addressing the high costs and inequalities with the current healthcare system. Does that sound a little more definitive than, I believe Medicare for all could work? Here's how we got to strengthen the ACA. Now, full disclaimer, Ro also above this does talk about how he's going to fight to protect the systems we already have. He said he's going to fight to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. He's going to, and he also said he will fight Republicans' efforts to diminish the ACA. And that is applying to the contemporary landscape. That basically means he won't support the AHCA. And he puts that in there because all of those things are currently under attack. The ACA is under attack. Social Security is under attack. Medicare, Medicaid is under attack. But when it comes to the next step, he's very clear. He supports a Medicare for all system. That's what his website says. So, you know, do you see a difference between that and talking about just strengthening the ACA? Strengthening the ACA means nothing. That means nothing. Whenever you hear someone say strengthen the ACA, you should stop listening. Now, whenever someone says, I'm going to protect it in the meantime, those are two different things. Why? Because the Trump administration is trying to gut what little progress we made with the ACA. The ACA was a baby step in a better direction compared to what we had. Underline baby step 3 times. So, Ro Khanna is clear. The next step is Medicare for all. Andrew Gillum, according to his own website, not so clear. Beto O'Rourke, according to his own website, not so freaking clear. And for some reason, if we point this out, we're speaking out of line. Now's not the time for that. Wait until after the election. Daniel says there's definitely a difference. Legrand says at least what we have is better than nothing, I guess. Yeah, it is, but now we have to take it to the next step, which is single payer. Watson, why did Roro not name the program? He did. He said Medicare for all several times. That's the name of it. He said Medicare for all. Here, we can go back to the website one more time. Medicare for all. Medicare for all. How many times? Do you need him to name it 3 times? Would a 3rd time be the charm? He named it twice. We could have had single payer in California, Chris points out. Very true, we could have. And the Democrats shelved it. That was Anthony Rendon's work. Let's see. Next step, when we're 50 steps back, it's a platitude. Saying single payer is the next step is not a platitude. That's the truth. How is that? A platitude is strengthening the ACA. That's a platitude because it means nothing. It literally means nothing. Saying single payer is the next step, that's just a fact. That's literally a fact. So, I'm not telling you who to support or who not to support. I mean, make your own decision. But, we're talking about when candidates are wishy-washy in their policy stances. And out of the examples we just gave, I think one is clearly stronger than the other. If you're not convinced by either one, that's your choice. If you're not convinced by Ro Khanna, if you're not convinced by Andrew Gillum, that's your choice. That's fine. But, I mean, I certainly... I see a difference between those two things I just showed. Some of you agree, some of you don't, and that's fine. But I see a difference between... Balthazar says, I pay $727 a month for worse care than I got prior to the ACA. Gillum needs to get up on the ACA. That's terrible. $727 a month. Jesus. Richest country in the world. Wow. Well, I am a little luckier than you in that regard, Balthazar. I do not pay anywhere close to that for my health care. I've actually gotten lower cost health insurance as a result of the ACA. But, like I was saying yesterday, I never get to keep the same doctor 2 years in a row because I get shifted into a different plan constantly. So it's not a great system. I think it's better than what we had because we had nothing. We had a completely unregulated system, and I know a few, for instances, where where there was a big difference. David's plan is almost $900 a month. Jesus, that's insane. I don't know how people... it's insane. My girlfriend pays so much more than I do, too. Like, so much more. Ugh. Alright, let's move on. We've spent too much time on this. So here's our first thing. This is from Paul. And this is from the Washington Post. Now, Paul points out that this is kind of a bullshit study, he thinks. And I took a quick glance at it. I agree with him. But here's something from the Washington Post, kind of as a way to control panic, I feel like. Middle-class income rose above $61,000 for the first time last year, the U.S. Census Bureau says. Middle-class income rose to the highest recorded levels in 2017, and the national poverty rate declined as the benefits of the strong economy lifted the fortunes of more Americans, the U.S. Census reported Wednesday. The median household earned $61,372 last year. So they finally earned more than they did in 1999 by a dollar amount. This doesn't factor in inflation. So here, let's take a look at this graph. So here's their graph to say, and this is the Washington Post saying that the middle class is fine. The middle class, which is virtually non-existent, with exception to what's still around from our parents' generation. So in 1999, it was here. 2017, nearly 2 decades later, not quite, but nearly 2 decades later, it's here. $1,300 more. They're not even factoring inflation. They're just saying, wow, this is great. Now, look at what happened here. This was, of course, during the Bush years. It started getting a little bit better. Banks started lending again, etc., etc. There were those bailouts for Wall Street that didn't get over into Main Street. And capitalism will kind of go in these little waves, and then what you'll get is that when it goes on a wave towards the up, you'll get articles like this, bullshit articles like this, that are going to try to tell you that the middle class is totally fine. The middle class has been shrinking since about the 60s. The middle class is nearly non-existent. They'll tell you it's fine. Why? Because in the course of 18 years, according to this study, which measures employment of the supposed middle class, the median income went up by $1,300 in 18 years. $1,300. 18 years, $1,300. What's the conclusion here? The middle class is fine. We live in a gig economy where full-time jobs are hard to come by, if not impossible. Teachers are not paid living wages. Firefighters are not paid living wages. Pilots are not paid living wages. And God knows people in the food industry aren't paid living wages. People are working 2 and 3 jobs just to survive. We have a prison population that dwarfs the rest of the world. We have an income inequality that is remnants of ancient Egypt. We have a huge homeless population all across the country. 44% of them have jobs. But from 1999 until 2017, get this, everybody. Median income rose by $1,300. What percentage did rent raise by? What a stupid article. But that's what the Washington Post is. The Washington Post, they want to serve the status quo. Why? Because they're owned by Jeff Bezos and they're just part of the corporate media. So they write articles like this. They employ people to do the mental gymnastics to try to say the middle class is fine. The middle class is not fine. You know why? Because we pretty much don't even have one anymore. So Paul shared that article because he thought it was bullshit. He pointed that out. And Paul, you were right. It's complete bullshit. So, no, there you go. More bullshit from the Washington Post. Would we expect anything less? Now's not the time. All right, this is from Seawalk. This is interesting. Just who is an independent contractor? A sweeping new California Supreme Court ruling restricting who is an independent contractor is shaking up an exceptionally diverse range of industries. The ruling, issued in April, affects an estimated 2 million independent contractors working in healthcare, beauty salons, gig economy jobs like Uber and Lyft, journalism, music, real estate, education, financial... All right, we get the idea. The decision is praised by the California Labor Federation as offering workers protections like minimum wage, unemployment, workers' compensation, and disability insurance. But some independent contractors say they like their freedom and have no interest in being employees. Okay? The interesting rub on this whole issue is it's not a traditional business versus labor fight, said Jennifer Barrera, Senior Vice President of Policy for the California Chamber of Commerce. This is really just about 2 different forms of the workforce, a worker versus a worker situation. It's about whether employees get to choose what status they want to be and what works best for their lifestyle. The Chamber is coordinating the I'm Independent Coalition, which is asking the state legislature to allow more flexibility for independent contractors. The ruling on Dynamics Operations West Inc. versus Superior Court, provides a three-part ABC test to determine who can be an independent contractor. The ruling says the worker must A, be free from control and direction from the hiring business, must perform work outside the scope of the hiring entity's usual business, and the worker must have an independent business of the same nature of work. Okay. The biggest change is Part B, which was never included under the previous law. Okay. The court ruling has put doctors in a bind who are now caught between this ruling and the State Business and Professions Code, which bars hospitals from directly employing most physicians. Many doctors serve as independent contractors at several hospitals. Okay. All right. And this allows them to spend more time with their children and family because they can set their own schedules. The ruling has caused Neighborhood Music School, a 104-year-old educational organization in LA, to throw out its business model. Okay. All right, so what exactly does this do? That's what I'm trying to find out here. Because this is a very involved article. Okay, so it doesn't say what exactly this thing does. So if you do not meet these three things, does that mean that you need to be paid as an employee? Meaning you need to get a W-2? Is that the issue here? Be free from control and direction from the hiring business. Must perform work outside the scope. All right, so I'll apply myself to this. I meet all three of these things. I'm technically a contractor in my line of work. I'm not considered an employee of anything. I meet all of these three things pretty easily. So I guess for a doctor, they're probably a doctor, so all of their work is doctor-related work. So they're kind of like, well, what other work do you mean what I do? What I'm not clear on in this article, and I only have so much time to dissect it because we have to move on. So what's the consequence? Do they have to pay you as an employee? Can they no longer contract your services? And how could they enforce something like this? Because if you're an independent contractor, you have every right to enter into any contract you want, according to my understanding of everything. So how would they stop a doctor from saying, look, I don't do anything besides being a doctor, but I've been an independent contractor. That's how I like to do it. I like to set my own schedule. This is how I'm going to do it. So I don't understand how this would affect those industries. Let me go to the chat, see if maybe you guys are picking up something that I'm not. Ron, yes, you have to be an employee. It's the Uberification of all work. I think that's a little bit of a generalization. Just because someone's a contractor doesn't automatically mean they're part of the gig economy. I don't consider myself part of all that. I just happen to be a comedian. There's no well, actually there are traditional W-2 jobs for comedians. Like if you write on a TV show or something like that. Although I think in some cases you're still considered a contractor. But I think in some cases you get a W-2. I think it all depends. But, you know, I'm a creative, so a lot of the traditional setups don't apply to me. I don't understand how this would affect any creative because I feel like those three things apply to them pretty easily. Okay. Krillin says, Ron, that is why I tell millennials that it was better in the late 90s. Income was almost the same, and expenses were way cheaper, from gas to rent to a movie ticket. Yeah, dude, I am old enough to remember when movies were, it was $8 to go to the movie. It was never more than $8 to go to the movies. Movie tickets were $8. So, yeah. But guys, think about that Huffington Post article. $1,300 over the course of 18 years. Guys, good news. The middle class is fine. So stupid. So stupid. So Tim points out this relieves businesses of any fault. Yeah, in some cases when you contract people, that's exactly what it does. I'm not saying contracting is always the way to go, by no means. I mean, all the stuff that you guys are bringing up are valid issues. I'm just pointing out the fact it doesn't apply to everyone, i.e., it doesn't apply to someone like me. There are exceptions. So, and I think that these contractor laws, I don't understand how they're that big of a deal, because I feel like the people that should be exceptions are still going to be exceptions. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is a big one to dissect. And I think I would still need to do a little more legwork on it. But thank you for sharing, Seawalk. All right, let's go over to the Reddit, because I've not been showing the Reddit some love. All right, this is from Fluffy Dog. All right. This says 2/3 of progressive Democratic congressional candidates are completely silent on foreign policy. Look, Fluffy Dog, now's not the time. Now's not the time. We're not allowed to talk about policies right now. We have to wait until after. To achieve a Democratic majority in the U.S. House of Representatives, Democrats must overcome the result of 2 decades of relentless Republican gerrymander. All right. Democrats could have fought this in the courts. They did not. All right, so gerrymandering happened. We know that. Republicans throughout. Okay, voter purging. All right. So once again, we are where we are, and Democrats have a far steeper uphill climb than they ought to, thanks to 2 generations of their own laziness and misleadership. So what will we get when and if a 2018 blue wave sweeps the Democratic majority into Congress? Let's take a look at some of the organized forces behind and assisting some of the Democratic candidates this year. There are CIA Democrats backed by the DCCC, which we all know that that's true. There are candidates that are members of the CIA backed by the DCCC, because the DCCC is little more than the DCCC is just a fundraising scam. That's what the DCCC is. It needs to go away. And there are allegedly progressive Democrats. There are 3 national outfits providing technical and fundraising assistance, expert personnel, and endorsements to supposedly progressive Democrats. Justice Democrats, Brand New Congress, Our Revolution. They had a big hand in the victory of Ocasio-Cortez and dozens of congressional, state level, and local Democratic primary campaigns. 31 congressional candidates endorsed by one or more of these progressive outfits survived the Democratic primary to face Republicans in November. Okay. All but 1 or 2 say they support Medicare for all. Now's not the time! Now's not the time! Though it's not clear whether they mean the straight no chaser version. Yeah, see, it's not clear. I.e., we have to spend time on this show going through particular websites where we see conflicting reports. We thought Andrew Gillum was for single payer. Well, it's certainly not clear on his website. Some are clearer than others. Just about all say they're refusing corporate bribes. Damn, I mean contributions. That's funny. More than half say reforming the criminal justice to provide education and job training for inmates is among their top priorities, and have something to say about net neutrality. Nearly all embrace more proactive and sensible measures to address climate change, to uphold the rights of women and LGBTQ people and immigrants and more. Most have something to say about gun violence, but it's a safe bet that none of them are educating anybody about the fact that the Second Amendment of the United States was enacted to facilitate slave patrolling, land stealing, and the genocide of indigenous people. So what they're pointing out here, what stands out in the website of these progressive Democrats is that 21 out of 31 have absolutely nothing to say to voters about war or peace, about the military budget, which consumes roughly $1 trillion a year. That's a really interesting point. 21 out of 31 have absolutely nothing to say. And keep in mind, it's this that keeps us from having all the things other countries similar to us that actually have less means than we do take for granted. It's a pretty good article. I think it sums it up pretty well. Yeah, we're not clear exactly who's for Medicare for all and who isn't. It's not clear. In our example this morning, I feel that some are clearer than others. Some of you agree with that, some of you don't. But either way, the messaging's not clear to we the people. And nobody's talking about the military budget. And they don't talk about it in the media either. They vote on it and they pass it. They gave Trump more military money than he asked for. Democrats supported it too. Republicans and Democrats lock in unison. Bipartisanship, baby. That's when they get all bipartisan-y on us when it comes to war. And you know what bipartisan is code for today? Bipartisan is code for the Republicans have a terrible idea. The Democrats agreed to help them sell it. That's bipartisanship. That's why when I hear somebody, I'm good at reaching across the aisle and working with Republicans, I can get some bipartisan legislation done. That's a red flag to me. I turn off right away. No, I want to know what you're for. I don't want to know that you can cooperate well with the Republicans because chances are you're going to pass destructive stuff. That's what you're going to do. All right. I don't think we have time for anything else, so I will go to the chat to end today's show. See what you guys are saying. Plain Glass Window says, if a candidate's position is unclear, they are almost certainly lying and are against the progressive policy in question. I agree. Thank you, Ron, for doing you. Aw, well, thank you for doing you and joining us. I appreciate it. Mike S. points out any bipartisan compromise is moved to the right. I agree, Mike S., and that's because I don't think it's a compromise at all. I think it's Republicans have a terrible idea. Dems are going to go with them on it. Moose Gal points out, why not ask them in town halls? That's the best strategy. And when you do that in a town hall, make sure you have your camera phone on. Make sure you're filming them. We the people are for healthcare for all. Why don't we have it? Well, Renee, the short answer is donors, donors, donors. Chris Walker points out that politicians lie. They certainly do. Muscal asked if Cornel West wrote that article. I don't believe so, but let me check on that for you. I don't think that was Cornel West. It was a good article. I really liked it. But let me check the author on that for you. Maybe it was. All right. And I screwed up. Hold on. Bruce A. Dixon wrote it. Bruce A. Dixon. And who is Bruce A. Dixon? When the Resistance is Really the Assistance is another article by him. Bruce A. Dixon. Interesting. Looks like a pretty cool writer. We'll have to check out more of his stuff. So yeah, Bruce A. Dixon is the answer to that question. Time for a puff, Dwayne? Yes, it certainly is. Chris Walker points out, talk and rhetoric mean nothing until the votes and protests happen. I agree. But, you know, when we go into the voting booth, it's kind of nice to know what someone actually stands for. I mean, yeah, we're always rolling the dice because, yeah, you never know if someone's for sure being honest. But it'd be nice to at least be clear on what they stand for in the first place so you can at least challenge them later. Don't you think that's a fair request? And I know you do. It's a rhetorical question. I know you think that's a fair request. I'm just saying. What's up, Long Beach? Good to see you. Celeste points out, I've been hitting Get Your News On with Ron on the Twitter after the show to see all the articles that Ron couldn't get to, and it helps extend the chat a little bit. There you go. I've never heard of, some of you guys are saying Bruce made some great points. You never heard of him before. I have not either. So shout out to the person that posted that. Thank you very much for that. Corey asks, is the California net neutrality bill technically illegal? No, it is not illegal. What one could argue is illegal is the fact that they rescinded net neutrality. Now, the net neutrality bill in California will be challenged in court, and the ISPs will be able to make a case. And, I mean, it will be a corrupt case, but a case nonetheless. And because the accompanying bill that affected the way state money is spent didn't pass, the actual net neutrality bill will have a harder time holding up in court. And we'll be talking more about net neutrality. We didn't get to the Ajit Pai article, but Joe, please send it again tomorrow. We will for sure get to it tomorrow or Thursday. Daniel, will we ever see you rock again, Ron? Of course you will. You know, it's tough to play in the morning. I'm still kind of waking up. I'm not like fully there yet, and it's singing is. I'm a mediocre singer all the time, so I feel like I'm a doubly mediocre singer in the morning when I'm not quite like when I'm not quite full high energy yet, you know. But and especially since I have a lot of recorded music, but I am working on that album. And Dwayne points out, I'm working on that album. And let's see here. Culinary school cost me $31,000 after a 12-hour day, 6 days a week, and 6-week unpaid internship. I got $10 an hour to start. Yeah. Culinary professionals are so grossly underpaid. And I think that's so wrong because I think that chefs are artists the same way an actor is an artist, the same way a musician is an artist, the same way a comedian's an artist. I think they are poets with food, and I have the utmost respect for everything about them. And I think it's such BS that they're not compensated better. In some cases, they are compensated well. I know that not every case is you know, wrong, but they work hard, they work long, and they provide a much-needed service, which is feeding people and providing people with that escapism that we need. I mean, food provides such a huge escape for us as people. Sometimes we don't always recognize it as such. And sometimes we go into modes where we, you know, eat to live instead of live to eat, and that's a good thing. You know, I'm not promoting gluttony. But I'm also saying that there's a lot of joy in food. There's a lot of comfort in food. There's a lot of togetherness in food. The service that a chef provides is essential for, I think, people's well-being. So I'm really sorry to hear that, Balthazar. And, yeah, that sucks. Le Cordon Bleu, Portland, Oregon. Ron, stop it. You're making me hungry. Alfonso, I am making myself hungry. Believe me. I respect anyone that makes my nourishment. L, me too. L. Apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. I'm hungry now, Ron. What are you making us for lunch? Moose Gal, you do not want me making you lunch because I am on a weird diet right now, and my lunch is not going to be exciting. I promise you that. Did I hear that Chicago's going to try out the UBI? I did not hear about that. I need to look into that. I would love to cover that tomorrow on the show, or Thursday on the show. I say Thursday because because we might have a guest tomorrow. I haven't confirmed everything for sure, but we might be having a guest tomorrow. So, yeah, hold tight. I'll, of course, be making the announcement once I know for sure. So if we have a guest tomorrow, we won't be doing the normal articles. We'll be interviewing the guest. But if we don't, you know, we'll be doing the usual fare. Jilly, you own an organic cafe? That's freaking awesome. What's the name of your cafe and where is it? Do you want me to do a show there? I'd love to. Chris asks, what will you be having when you first break your diet? I will be having pasta of some sort. I promise you, I will be having pasta of some sort. Daniel says people really underestimate how hard the job of a chef is. I think so, yeah. People underestimate how hard all of those jobs are. People underestimate how hard it is to be a server. If I had to be a server, I would last an hour. You know what? I take that back. I'd last 20 minutes. I couldn't do it. You know, my girlfriend's a server part-time. She does a couple shifts a week at a restaurant. You know, because she has 2 part-time jobs instead of 1 full-time job, you know, because the middle class is soaring. And we had this, she's like, I think you could do it. You deal with people. And I'm like, yeah, but I have a microphone in my hand, and I can say whatever I want to people as long as I'm funny. If somebody pisses me off, I can say whatever I want to them as long as I'm funny. So anyway, my point is, I can never, people totally underestimate how hard those jobs are. And whenever I see, have you ever been with a group of people and somebody's like kind of shitty to the server for no reason and you're just horrifically embarrassed to be with them? Like, I've been in those situations where I'm just like, I put my head down. First of all, you're endangering your own food. Be nice to the people that handle your frickin' food. Second of all, you're just being wrong. You're just being wrong. Even when I've had conflicts at restaurants, and I have, and it's usually because of management or something like that, I'm always clear. I'm like, I know this isn't your fault, but here's the problem. Like, I'm always very clear to the server, this is not your fault, and you're awesome, and you're doing everything right, and I'm sorry that you have to be part of this conflict too. And you guys are pointing out, Leon points out, food service is one of the most stressful jobs in the world. I believe it. Elle says, I was a terrible waitress. I would have been a terrible waiter. I would have been terrible, terrible, terrible. And Chili, I guess you don't own the shop anymore. Bummer. I would totally come to a show there. All right. I got to go, y'all. Thank you so much for a wonderful stream. A little bit of housekeeping. Tour dates, romplicone.com. Sacramento, California, November 2nd. San Francisco, California, November 3rd. Austin, Texas, get your tickets now. There's a limited supply of those. November 10th, I'm going to be in town for the East event over at ZT, our sponsor, ZHIT.com. Their tea kind of rules. Grab your tickets now for that. November 23rd, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. All the tickets for those shows are available at romplicone.com. Orlando, Florida is happening January 11th, and I'll be posting tickets for that later today. So, January 11th, Orlando, Florida. All my Florida friends, grab your tickets. Patreon.com/romplicone. If you're able to support this show on the sustainability level, I'm really close to a new goal. It's a pay-what-you-can level, and you get all kinds of exclusive content. Please consider it. I love you all very much. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Until then, remember, the war economy still sucks. The middle class is not doing great. And let's just keep on keeping on. Oh, and by the way, it doesn't... we do not benefit from sugarcoating any candidates, no matter what is hung next to their name, no matter who they're against. We're citizens. We're voters. We have a civic obligation to tell the frickin' truth. Peace.